What would you say are some of the biggest like challenges you had to overcome? It sounds like building the shielded primitive or the shielded opcodes was sort of one element there. But what are some of the toughest things you had to solve besides, I'm sure one of them is just hiring like a world-class team.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Getting the team together to do this. So first of all, I have nowhere near the expertise to pull this off. Even today, and especially when we started, the team required to put this together needs a significant mix of people that have expertise in distributed systems, compilers, and cryptography. Even if I brought in like great cryptography, which is now a very small part of our pipeline, I still needed the other two. So getting people together for this took a very long time because it's just such a small set of people and getting them to work well. So that was absolutely the number one technical challenge.
Isn't it funny how quickly you have to go from looking for a job out of college to purely recruiting as a founder?
I joke about that a lot. In many cases, the people that I have the pleasure of working with side by side would be like my boss's boss. My boss's boss's boss, probably.
What do you do for a living? I'm a recruiter.
Yeah. Recruiter. Now I'm a marketer and up and coming influencer is something that's adding to my list. I'm trying to get my Twitter game going, and I have a selfie stick, I have a tripod, and I'm trying to tweet every day. And so far, I'm a struggling influencer for sure.
Can you talk to us a little bit about some early prototypes or applications that you guys have developed? You've Nibble, Riff, Folio.
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through a few of these just to give a sort of a full picture to the audience.
Yeah, very happy to. So Nibble is an app that is built by a guy named Raghav. He's a student at Stanford, and when he came to us and wanted to work on something that was really crypto native and something cutting edge, he said that he had a lot of experience in the restaurant industry. So we thought about what could happen there, and the obvious piece was what happens when restaurants. The obvious first question is what happens when restaurants are putting revenue on chain, and then from there, then we get the cool interaction that we mentioned earlier, where it's kind of nice that restaurants can accept USDC, but at the end of the day, they accept credit cards too. And credit cards kind of work already. What can we do for restaurants? What are the other crypto superpowers that we can put together? One of them is being early. So what if you buy pizza and you're very early, then you get some portion of future revenue that is soul bound to you. So it's not some like tradable security. And then now you're an evangelist for said restaurant. And so Nibble in one line is invest in your favorite restaurant.
Amazing. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the embedded rewards is super, super interesting because like every restaurant I feel like has, there was a point where they all had a separate rewards program.
Mm-hmm.
And some have the stamps.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't make sense. The cool thing is really, if you're looking here, the difference between a crowdfunding and a token fundraising is completely different. The returns from crowdfunding are linear, where the returns from tokens are super linear. Like if you're an early at a restaurant that becomes a Michelin star restaurant in the heart of New York, you're making way more than just those punch cards to free meal. You're legitimately making money.
It also creates like a viral loop where like people would want to integrate this because it would drive a lot more traffic if they know about it. It's like physical points program, basically.
Yes, that is exactly it. Points and crypto incentives have been used mostly incorrectly, or at least not incorrectly, not to make any moral judgments, but used in a way that didn't work out versus used in a way that did work out. This is a very, very few. This is one of those where I can say I felt the magic of what it's like going into a like low market cap early project. And I want that magic to apply to everyday life, to a legitimate business.
Talk to us about Riff and Folio really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Riff was a funny bit. I can talk about Riff and Level in the same sentence because they're both based on the encrypted bonding curve. What happens if you have an asset with no visible price? A really fun, easy way to demo this is now you can have a bonding curve that you can listen to, where the only party that's allowed to see the price can be a violin, an image generation model. And then if you ever want to decide whether or not to buy, you have to listen to the lows and then the highs, and then you decide whether or not to buy. Like that's the easiest fun demo that everyone's gonna intuitively get. Oh, this is cool. There's a price in the back. I can't see it directly, but I can listen to it, and it's a cool experience. That's Riff.
I'm going to make people listen to 1 hour of ads before they can see the price.
Oh, and then these ads are gloomy and not gloomy depending on candles. That could kind of go. So yeah, and then the same concept can be used in bootstrapping networks, like we talked about earlier, where early on, one of the problems that Helium ran into was they would have network coverage be a function of price action. When prices were up, people would buy nodes. When prices were down, people would sell nodes. And then the actual demand side on the other side would say, hey man, like why is your network coverage going up and down every other week? And the network volatility is tough to maintain a good SLA as a software service.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So DeepIn is kind of surfacing some of these like issues with not having certain pieces of data encrypted.
Yep. It's exactly that. Like if early price, while you're pretty much still a seed stage company looking for PMF and proving it out, if the price is public, that can genuinely hurt your long-term growth.
I used to joke that, a lot of the like DAO governance, for example, a lot of the things that DAOs are learning are already like in traditional like corporate law. Like these rules already exist in corporate law. And the same is kind of true with like fundraising. A lot of the traditional fundraising mechanisms kind of happened for a reason. Like they didn't happen overnight. They happened sort of like to solve different problems that occurred. And so, requiring people to be accredited investors in the US is a very hacky way of solving a problem of too many retail people spending too much money investing when they should be saving. Not the best solution, just a solution. And so it's interesting what you're saying about the Helium thing is like, or in general is like with tokens is maybe the price should be private until it reaches like a certain threshold.
Yeah.
Maybe people can buy it off the market and sell and like whatever, but it should be generally private until you've graduated to a certain level of good product market fit, very large user base, revenues going into the DAO, et cetera.
Maybe that's it. Maybe companies, seed stage companies not IPOing is the right move. That might be it. But again, I think with stuff like this, 90% chance it's just a dumb idea. 10% chance it could change the way that capital formation happens in crypto. Maybe 97.3, but yeah.
That's the nature of it. And you know what? It'd be interesting to look at the early ETH use cases. I think there were at least like, it was either 8 or 10. And it would be interesting to see if those ended up coming true eventually. The ERC-21 obviously did, but the other ones as well.
I think the early ETH team was insane with it. I literally was talking about this the other day with one of my friends. I think they were 5 for 8. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
5 for 8.
So like yeah. I mean, your ideas could all be good.
Yeah, maybe maybe we bat at the same rate as the early Ethereum team. Even if we bat at half that rate, we have 10 ideas. We have 2 that change crypto. I'd take that trade any day.
That's amazing. And talk to us a little bit about, future roadmap. It sounds like mainnet is coming up at some point, but that's not really a roadmap item. It's like you flip a switch. What are some what are some roadmap items you have coming forward? Like, is there anything on scalability, performance side? Something that's always a thing with encryption.
Yep.
But what does that look like next 12 months?
So on the quick answer on the scalability performance side, there are positive indicators internally that we can hit the same amount of scalability as the average chain today. We can do the same amount of throughput and block time as most chains operate today. We're not going to be sub 400 milliseconds anytime soon. But generally the magic of using T's is most of the overhead comes from IO. And then once everything's inside, then you can compute to your heart's desire. On scaling, all we're trying to do is be on par. And there are indicators that we can be on par. And that's it. Like we want to be really good at encryption and then dead average everywhere else is what we're looking for. So that very specific point on that one. As far as roadmap, we are maybe when this podcast is out. Honestly, we're releasing our developer testnet in next week. We're releasing a developer testnet next week, and that is everything that Seismic offers in the front end, meaning users and developers get to use Seismic as if like everything fully worked. They have access to these data types and they have access to these guarantees, but everything's working on one box. And there are a couple of pieces in the back that definitely still leak information. What we needed to do was get to as quickly as possible to an interface that people can start using to kickstart our feedback loop. That's our developer testnet. A few months after we release our developer testnet, we're going to have our public testnet. And in this one, it's not just one node, it's many nodes. It's actually running consensus. It's pretty close to what's going to happen in mainnet. Then a few months after that, we'll have public testnet and developer mainnet. We're going to be hosting our residency in New York. We're going to get a bunch of teams in here to make sure that day one launch, we're going to have a lot of interesting use cases come out.
Amazing. And what is the best way for people to get involved with this developer testnet?
The number one best way is deploying a contract. So thank you for asking this. We have a repository called Seismic Starter where you can literally fork and deploy in under 5 minutes. And then you would have deployed a contract with encryption that partly hasn't been possible before and partly would have been very, very hard and would have taken many days to do in previous regimes. This is the number one best way to do that. There's another way if you're a developer who doesn't really want to, a developer or user that doesn't really want to get in the weeds, but see what it's like. We're releasing an app experience that we're calling it Mid-Curve Trivia in about 2-3 weeks. And we want to do some heavy Twitter takeover component where it's really easy to play. You tune in at 2 p.m. ET every day and you play with everyone else. It's a fun game. It's going to be something like, who is the saltiest person on Twitter? And it's going to be 4 items and 4 ats. And your job is to vote with a mid-curve. If the saltiest person is Liron Kotinke, and the majority do that, then you're up and you're to the next round. So it's HQ trivia, but cryptoified and done more crowdsourced.
You guys have a decent PR strategy going on.
Oh, you haven't even seen the half of it, man. Like when Mid-Curve Trivia comes out, we're gonna have an AI Reggie Rock that's gonna be talking to you. Like we care. We want all of these app experiences put out to very clearly scream that we're a team that cares a lot about the packaging that users and developers get. So we set the standard.
I love that you guys are doing like a starter kit as well. I think like when it comes to getting developers familiar to getting this used at hackathons out there, like this is the way to do it.
Yep. Fork the starter.
That was like an early, like this is like 10 years ago now. That was like a growth hack. Find the hackathon starter kits and integrate your app into there.
Oh, whoa. Is that still up? I might do that. That sounds smart.
Yeah, we did it when I was
slammed already.
We did. People probably forgot about it. We did this when I was at Bitco. We just launched our API. We integrated into the hackathon starter kit, and then all of a sudden we had all these users, and people would integrate like Stripe and Plaid and all that stuff. Like, what is your sort of like base tool set that you need for a hackathon? And so it could be encrypted applications that are business friendly. One of them.
Noted. You're gonna see this in a couple. You're gonna see this in a couple tutorials coming up, where we're gonna do it.
Send it over. I'll try it out. And so this developer testnet. What's your X handle? Like where do people go to learn more and get started?
Oh yes, X handle is Seismic Sys. So SEISMICSYS. So Seismic Systems. And then my personal Twitter is Liron CTK. So it's LYRON CTK. It's usually the company Twitter for official company stuff, and then me for more thoughts that are like 80% wrong, but 20% could be pretty good.
Why don't you switch to a model where 80% of the thoughts are good? Wouldn't that be more get you more followers?
You know what? Someone should have suggested this to me earlier. Damn.
And how did you, just really quick before we wrap up, how did you come up with the name Seismic?
This took 3 weeks. We were originally, before Seismic, we were called Elliptic because we just liked elliptic curves. But we figured out that we wanted something that stuck out a lot in the space and something that we don't see as much in the product names that seem very grounded. And it resonated a lot with it. One, it was very grounded, and two, it had a lot of gravity. And it resonated a lot with a company that we wanted to build, where we want to be grounded in where demand is sitting and not sit in a hole and then try doing a lot of research-based things and then come out years later. And then number two, we also wanted a lot of gravity to it because we had a lot of ambitions for the company that we wanted to start. And hopefully we'll have them pan out over the next decade.
Amazing. Liran, thank you so much for joining us today to tell us about the groundbreaking blockchains brought to us by Seismic Systems. I'm actually really excited for what you guys are building, and I think it's definitely going to create a lot of innovative new use cases. So thanks for giving smart cryptographers a home and a cool place to work. And excited to see what comes out of this.
It's great. It was a pleasure, Mason. Thanks so much. It was so nice to be here.
Thanks so much. Thank you for joining the Friend Zone.